What is going on, everybody? That's right, I dressed up as the nun, and boy, was I really excited. This has been 5 years in the waiting. I was originally going to do this for the first film, never really got the chance to, so here we are with the Nun 2, and why not? So, the Nun 2 takes place after the events of the first film. In 1956, word gets out throughout a town in France that a priest has been murdered violently, and now Sister Irene must begin to investigate the murder only to find a demon behind it, the same evil that terrorized her in the original film. Now, I was not really excited for this movie, mostly because I was not the biggest fan of the first film. I thought it was a cliched mess that should have been a nightmarish film, especially when you have a demon nun that really gave me PTSD in The Conjuring 2. And so, really disappointed with that film. Also, with the fact that you have Michael Chavez, who directed The Curse of La Llorona, which really didn't live up to the stories that my mom told me when I was a kid. And he also directed The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, a movie that I thought was better than The Curse of La Llorona, but really didn't make a big impression on me. And so with him directing this film, I really didn't have a lot of confidence. So a couple of things that I really enjoyed about this movie, we have Taisa Farmiga coming back as Sister Irene, and she is teamed up with Storm Reed, who plays Sister Deborah, and the interactions that we get with these two, I thought worked. I thought they played off well off of each other. I'm going to be getting into my thoughts on them a little bit later, but I really enjoyed it whenever they were on screen. Plus, I thought what Michael Chavez did with this movie, he did some creative things with this movie that even if this was the biggest pile of dog shit I had seen all year, I would have still given it points for it being creative, and that's what I really wanted this film to bring. What the first film didn't bring to the table was creativity or originality to a sense. It felt like it was playing on the tropes that we had seen in a lot of horror films throughout the decades, and it just stuck to that. Plus, I never really felt the threat of the nun in that movie because it felt like they were trying to kill them, but at the same time, it was doing a bunch of stupid things that really wouldn't have made sense, and that's what really took me out of this movie. When it comes down to the Nun 2, yeah, no, throw that out of the window because this nun is not only demonic, but it's also killing people left and right, and nobody is safe. And that's what I really enjoyed about this movie. Even if it was the biggest pile of dog shit I had seen all year, I would have still given it points just for it being a little more creative than the first film. There are a lot of great moments where the tension builds up, and you know that the jump scares are gonna come, and sometimes there are this loud bang cliched jump scares that we see in so many horror films already, but it was used to a great effect in this movie, and that's something that I think Michael Chavez learned from The Curse of La Llorona and The Conjuring Made Me Do It, and The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I thought that is something that really heightened the film, and I thought that is where the film kind of had its drive. A couple of things that I really didn't like in this film, we have Jonas Bloquet coming back as Frenchie, and now he is like the groundsman of a boarding school where we have Anna Papwell, who was in the Chronicles of Narnia as Susan, and the little interaction that we had with these two, I thought was fine. However, I feel like a lot of this movie was devoted to them, and I feel like this movie had a lot of screen time devoted to them where we have Sister Irene and Sister Deborah in the background, and they really don't get a lot of the screen time. I feel like they are pushed to the background, and I was less interested in that side of the story, and I was a little bit more interested on this side of the story because I really didn't like the will they, won't they kind of relationship that Maurice and Kate had in this movie. It was just not there for me. I kind of like the interaction that he has with his daughter. I thought that was fine. She gets bullied in school, and even the bullies in this movie really got me on my nerves. That I just really wanted them to all just go away because they were just annoying and they were the cliched bullies that we see so many times. And that is where I feel like the movie kind of lost me a little bit. That even though it had points for creativity and somewhat of a originality tone to this movie, was not interested at all in what was going on with Frenchie in this boarding school. I get why he was used. I just wish that he was used a little bit less because a lot of the screen time for this movie is devoted to what's going on in this boarding school, and that is just where I was just not interested at all. We could have removed him from the movie, and I would have preferred we had Sister Irene and Sister Deborah be in this boarding school trying to figure out what's going on, and I would have been a little bit more invested on that angle because even when they interact together, when we have Irene and Maurice interacting together, I just did not feel nothing. And also, I was not the biggest fan of the cinematography in this movie because almost every single shot in this movie is so dark. Like, come on, people, just turn on a fucking light because I could barely see a thing. And that is something that really dampened my experience with this movie. That even something like that really got me on my nerves. And I just really wish we had a little bit more brighter. I get what they were trying to go for, but they couldn't even turn on a candle. And that was just really irritating me from beginning to end. And so for me, coming out of this movie, I had two mixed thoughts about this movie. On one side, I enjoyed one part of the film. On the other side, I just could not give two shits about what was actually going on that side of the spectrum. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and give The Nun 2 a 5.5 out of 10. There were a lot of creative choices that Michael Chavez took with this movie that I thought worked, and it worked very well. However, the story could have been developed a little bit better. But if you're just going into this movie expecting to be scared, you're probably going to come out with a good time. Otherwise, you're probably just good to just skip this movie and wait for it to come out on streaming or just never check it out. But those are my thoughts on The Nun 2. Have you guys checked it out? Are you even remotely interested in this movie? And did you like the first film? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know which is your favorite film in the Conjuring universe.